Then her body jerked backward like something yanked her spine. Her mouth opened in a sharp gasp. "She's triggering," Mira said urgently. "Senya's pulling her back." We moved fast. Kaeli and Mira hauled her to the interface deck while Jaren slammed the chamber doors shut. I scrambled for the pulse dampener embedded in the auxiliary deck. "She's using pain memory," Mira said, breathless. "Psychic cascade seeded through trauma, a layered re-entry point. If we don't counterpattern her brainwave sync, she'll lose herself. Permanently." Lyra thrashed violently. Kaeli grabbed her arms. "What do I do?" "Link your feed," Mira ordered. "Push your waveform into hers. Anchor her in your rhythm. She trusts you more than the false Rael she remembers." Kaeli's voice cracked. "She doesn't even know me." "She doesn't have to," I said. "You're the only one here who hasn't hurt her." Lyra's voice tore out like a scream underwater. "No, no, he left me, he let me die, the blood, the dome." Kaeli slammed her hand to the node interface. A sharp flash of white light burst across the chamber as her mind touched Lyra's. Both of them screamed, and then, silence. Kaeli was the first to speak. "I see it." She was crying now, eyes wide and unfocused. "She's trapped in a loop. A corridor. Senya's made her relive that day on repeat. Each time, it ends with you walking away." I stepped closer, gently. "Kaeli, can you find a door?" "She did," Mira said quietly, reading the waveforms. "She just doesn't know she built it." Lyra convulsed again, harder this time. Her voice was younger now, desperate. "Not again, please, don't let him leave. I can't. Kaeli pressed her forehead to Lyra's. "Lyra," she whispered. "You saved him. You didn't die." "But he left." "No," Kaeli said, firmer now. "He tried to come back. You were already gone. And now you're here. Now we are here. Listen to my voice." Lyra's breathing slowed. "I remember, a song," she said. "In the vents. You were singing." "I was humming," Kaeli replied. "Just to stay sane. That's how I found you." Kaeli smiled through the tears. "Yes." The pulse monitor leveled out. Mira let out a long, shaking breath. "They're synced." Jaren lowered his rifle. "So what now?" "She stays with us." Kaeli helped Lyra sit upright. "She's still herself," she said. "Just broken in half." Lyra looked at me. The eyes were hers again. "What did they do to me?" she asked. I crouched in front of her. "Everything they could to make me your enemy." Lyra touched her chest. "And they almost won." "No," Kaeli said. "They only win if we stop fighting." Mira turned, listening to a signal. "There's more," she said. "Surface activity. Senya's drones. They're not just hunting anymore." I narrowed my eyes. "Then what are they doing?" Mira looked up. "They're gathering. Everything's converging. She's building a convergence loop near the cradle gate." Kaeli stood slowly. "That voice, the one I keep hearing, it's louder now. It's pulling me to the surface. I think it's coming from the gate." Jaren swore under his breath. "That's suicide." "No," I said, already standing beside her. "That's our next step." The voice came at 3:47. Kaeli sat upright in the dark, breathing sharp, pulse erratic. The sound was still ringing in her ears, low, broken, distorted like an old recording, but unmistakably real. It said her name, not the one anyone here used, not Kaeli. It called her Orankai. The ancient word was hybrid in origin, lost after the second cleansing. It meant first light that thinks, a title never spoken aloud since the archives were purged, but she remembered it now, because the voice wasn't from within the grid, it was from outside, across the dome, from somewhere that wasn't supposed to exist. She reached for the pad, shaking fingers scraping through the logs. It wasn't on the public bands. Not on the Echo Pulse net or any council registry, it was something else. A third path. Hidden in the seams of old tech, layered beneath discarded calibration signals, routed through abandoned substations, buried deep, Kaeli isolated the frequency and looped the audio back. Orankai. "We see you." It wasn't a message meant for everyone, it was a call meant only for her. she slipped into her coat and moved through the hall in silence. I felt her before I saw her, like a change in air pressure, a ghost of static in the mind. Kaeli stepped into my chamber and whispered, "You need to hear this." She played it back. The voice was synthetic, but frayed, weathered like it had traveled too far through too much interference. Still, it spoke with memory. And the way it pronounced her name, it wasn't a warning, it was recognition. "Someone's reaching across the dead zones," I said, standing. "Not just someone," she replied. "Something that knows what I am." Jaren met us in the observatory 10 minutes later, hair tousled, pulling his jacket on mid-stride. "You're sure it wasn't planted?" Kaeli shook her head. I triple-checked the signal path. It came through an old neutrino burst protocol, something only pre-collapse satellites used. Mira joined next, eyes already scanning Kaeli's logs on her wrist console. "This isn't just a message," she said, frowning. "There's a coordinate seed embedded in the subcarrier." I leaned over her shoulder. The data fragment pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat, an address. "No map, Sector 12, Mira whispered. "The graveyard. The old Cradle Labs." No one had spoken of that place in years. It was where early hybrids were tested, quietly erased when the first wave of resistance emerged. Most of the structures were leveled. Some, they said, were buried. Jaren ran a hand down his face. "This is bait." "Or a door," Kaeli said, eyes steady. Silence stretched between us. Then Lyra stepped into the chamber, holding the decoded archive from Senya's stolen files. Her face was pale. Her voice was quiet. "I found something too." She placed a fragment of the archive on the table, a rotating memory schematic, built from an array of mirrored nodal chains. "Senya didn't just monitor the past," she said. "She tried to store alternative outcomes." Jaren frowned. "You mean projections?" "No," Lyra said. "Real lived branches. Threads. Moments that happened, but were rewritten. This engine doesn't predict time, it remembers every version of it." My blood went cold. "They built a way to preserve multiple realities," I said. Mira muttered, "and probably a way to choose which one becomes the dominant record. A war not just over territory, but over memory itself." Kaeli stood at the window. "Staring past the dome's inner curve, we follow the signal," she said softly. "We find out who or what still remembers me. Before they erase everything." None of us argued. We were past debate. The only choice now was which version of the future we were willing to fight for. We crossed into Sector 12 at dusk. The outer corridors were cold and silent, metal ribs of dead tunnels stretching like the bones of some ancient beast, abandoned after the purge. No patrols. No drones. Just the thick presence of absence. The deeper we went, the more the air changed. It didn't smell like decay, it smelled like interference, static in the lungs. Memory in the dust. Kaeli moved ahead with a strange certainty. Like her feet already knew where to go. Lyra walked beside her, occasionally tapping the pulse mapper we'd salvaged. Every so often, she paused and looked over her shoulder, more at Kaeli than at what lay behind. "She's syncing with the zone," Lyra whispered to me. "I don't know how, but it's responding to her presence." We found the hybrid chamber under the fourth ridge. It was buried beneath slagstone and old shielding plates, the entrance marked only by a ruined symbol, half-burned, hybrid script carved into the alloy like it had been scratched by someone desperate to be remembered. Kaeli brushed her fingers across the etching. "Orankai," she whispered. "This is where they first used it." We forced the doors open manually. Inside, the chamber pulsed faintly with blue and silver light, alive, but dormant. A series of stasis cradles lined the far wall, most shattered or burned through. One remained intact. Cryocoils wrapped the pod like a cocoon. As we approached, the lights responded. The pod unsealed itself. Kaeli stepped closer, and inside, under a web of fractured preservation gel, was a mirror, not glass, a recording device built from bioreflective tech. Designed not to show your image, but your core imprint. It flickered once, then a figure emerged. She was older. Worn. Hair longer, eyes scarred by light, but unmistakably Kaeli, a different version, maybe a future. Maybe a memory, but real. She looked directly at us. Her voice came through the air like a confession torn from time. "If this message has reached you, then I'm already gone. Or I will be soon." Kaeli didn't breathe. Neither did I, you are Oren Kai. The first light that thinks. But not the only one. There were others, versions of you created in secret. Split across timelines. Erased before they could awaken. Senya found a way to anchor the dominant thread. To choose which version of history survives. That's how she won in my cycle. She made the truth forget itself. Kaeli stepped closer, her voice a whisper. What are you trying to tell me? The message continued, there is a failsafe buried under the southern basin. They won't expect you to find it. But if you do, burn the archive. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to restore what was lost. Let it end. Only then can something real be born again. The figure paused, then looked straight at Kaeli. You are more than what they made. You are the choice they couldn't predict. Don't trust Rael if he starts to forget. Don't trust me if I show up again. Trust only what you feel when everything else is gone. And then she smiled. A tired, fractured smile. I loved them all. Even the ones who betrayed me. The image faded, silence filled the chamber. Kaeli stood still, eyes fixed on the now empty pod. I moved beside her and said quietly, what do we do with that? She didn't look at me. She just answered, we finish what she started. And for the first time since the day we left the old city. I believed her. The first fracture hit just before sunrise. I was standing in the east wing of our safe house, watching Kaeli sleep, when suddenly I wasn't. I was on the outer rim platform. Alone. No memory of walking there. Just the cold rush of wind and a whisper in the static, this isn't your first run. I blinked, disoriented, heart pounding. The moment flickered. And just like that, I was back in the east wing. Still watching her. But my palms were shaking, the fractures came faster after that. I'd pick up a tool and forget what I meant to fix. I'd say something, then realize I'd already said it a day ago, in different words, to different people. I started writing timestamps in my palm just to know what hour it really was, and the worst part, I began hearing myself, not thoughts. Words, don't trust the offer. Not this time. She remembers. That's enough. Lyra noticed it first. She was reviewing schematics from the hybrid site when I lost my place mid-sentence. She tilted her head and said softly. Rael, what's the last thing you remember? I gave her a time. She checked her scanner. It was 12 hours off. You're sliding, she said. Something's forcing your perception to realign. Like memory drift, but targeted. Jaren was less subtle. He cornered me after Kaeli left the room. If you're compromised, he said coldly, I need to know. I can't protect both of you if you're not all here. I stared at him, voice low. I'm still me. He didn't move, then Kaeli came back. And she wasn't alone. The man behind her looked exactly like me, same build. Same face. Same eyes. But the moment he stepped into the light, I knew, he wasn't me. His posture was wrong. His eyes scanned the room like a soldier, not a survivor. His right hand twitched like it expected a weapon. And when he spoke, it wasn't with confusion. It was authority. I'm Rael Torma. Assigned observer from Cycle Red 7. I don't know how I got here, but I'm not your enemy. Jaren raised his sidearm instantly. I stopped him with a look. The other me raised both hands. I came through a gate that doesn't exist yet. Your timeline shouldn't have intersected mine. Something's unraveling. And if we don't find the anchor, none of us are going to survive the collapse. Kaeli stepped forward. Staring at him. What's the anchor? The other Rael, Red 7, answered without hesitation, you. The room fell silent. He looked at her the way I had once looked at her mother. With sorrow. With reverence. With something broken behind the eyes. You died in my cycle, he said. And when you did, Senya won. Every version of you. She erased. This one, he pointed at my Kaeli, is the last unbroken thread. I didn't want to believe him, but deep down, I already did, because his eyes held the weight of futures I'd only started to dream, and because I could feel my own grip on memory slipping, like someone else was already writing over me. Kaeli stood between us, two rails. One broken past. One bleeding present, and a future neither of us understood. Then we'd better move fast, she said, because I'm not dying in any cycle. We set up a perimeter before nightfall, not because we believed it would hold, but because pretending we had time was the only way to breathe. Kaeli didn't sleep. Neither did I. Red 7, myself from another broken road, paced like a man who'd already buried everyone twice. He kept glancing at Kaeli with that haunted look. Not pity. Not awe. Just recognition. Explain the anchor, I said. We sat in the safe house map room. The lights were dimmed. Everyone else was in the west wing. Red 7 leaned forward and activated his relay crystal. Holographic shards unfolded across the table, fractured timelines, waveforms, decaying nodes. This, he said, pointing, is how Senya wins. Each spike in the pattern was a version of the grid. A future. A sequence, all branches collapse toward one outcome, he continued. Every version of Kaeli, every hybrid that refused assimilation, was erased by what we now call Anchor Protocol. I frowned. A memory weapon? He shook his head. Not just memory. Causality. They pinpoint an individual who resists systemic control, then trace every decision they've ever made. Every influence. They rewind through time, identify the pivotal point, and strike it. Kaeli stepped closer, her voice low. Strike how? They alter your origin, Red 7 said quietly. They make you never happen. I stared at the data. You said Kaeli is the last unbroken thread. He nodded. In this version, she's the anchor, the nexus point of every failed timeline's resistance. She's the only one who's never been found. Yet. Kaeli said nothing, her eyes were locked on the spiraling waveform, then she said softly, I hear it. Red 7 turned sharply. You what? Kaeli touched her temple. There's a sound in my head. It started after the second fracture. Like humming, but deeper. Like someone is trying to tune me out. I moved toward her, gently. Why didn't you say anything? Because if I said it out loud, it might become real, she whispered. Red 7 stood. That's not just a hum. That's the failsafe. Senya's preparing to deploy the anchor overwrite. I felt a chill settle in my chest. What happens if she succeeds? You'll forget she ever existed, Red 7 said. Kaeli's voice barely held. And what if I forget who I am? Red 7 looked her in the eye. Then she wins without firing a shot. We made a choice that night, no more running. No more shadow resistance. If they were preparing the overwrite, we had one shot left, reach the signal basin first, the southern basin. Forbidden zone. Shielded since the old collapse. No relay nodes. No archives. Just a dead valley humming with secrets. It was where Senya built the first anchor core, and where Kaeli would either reclaim her story or be erased from all of ours. We left just before dawn, no speech. No ceremony. Just quiet tension and the sound of our boots crunching gravel as the sky behind us burned violet. Kaeli walked ahead, her coat flaring in the dry wind, her eyes fixed on the horizon. She hadn't spoken since the anchor briefing. Not really. She'd answer questions. She'd nod. But the Kaeli I knew, the girl who cracked jokes when it was darkest, who moved like a storm with a heart, was slipping away, or maybe she was being peeled away. Red 7 kept checking the signal. A distorted low band had begun pulsing every 30 minutes. Subtle at first, then stronger. Like sonar. Like something was looking for her. We passed through 3 abandoned transit rings before the landscape changed. The grid ended in a line of broken pylons and rusted checkpoints. Beyond them, the southern basin, no lights. No echoes. Just a dead scab of land and a sky that looked like it had given up. This place was sealed after the Protocol War, Red 7 said. All the anchor cores were stored beneath the basin. But only one survived the purge. Kaeli glanced at him. And that's where we're going. That's where you were born, he answered. She stopped, turned slowly. What do you mean? Red 7 lowered his voice. I didn't say, physically. I said causally. This is where your divergence began. Where the first Kaeli, across any sequence, said no. I stepped forward. Why didn't you tell us this earlier? He looked at me. Because if she dies here, The timeline collapses. And everything we're doing becomes a memory no one remembers. Kaeli shook her head. You're saying this place is a what? A birth site of resistance. A fracture point, he replied. Every unbroken hybrid thread leads back here. And Senya knows it. That was when the sky lit up, not fire. Not sunlight, a scan beam, a Hunter-class drone swept over the ridge, scattering dust and data. Behind it, 3 more. Low altitude. Tight formation, Red 7 cursed, they've locked on. I raised my rifle. We have to scatter. No, Kaeli said suddenly. We stay together. I turned to her. Kaeli, she was trembling now. I know where they're pulling from, she said. They're not just tracking my signal, they're hijacking my memories. Trying to overwrite them mid-sequence. I saw my mother last night. But it wasn't her. She looked at me, it was a version of you. Trying to convince me I'd already surrendered. The drones grew louder, the first one fired, a warning shot that split the earth 10 meters ahead. Go, I said. We ran hard across the flatland. Kaeli stumbled, then steadied herself. Her breath hitched. I heard her mutter something, barely audible, they're not my thoughts. They're seeds. I shouted back, what? They're planting alternate choices, she gasped. Trying to rewrite my past by changing my feelings about it. The gate appeared out of nowhere, half buried under sand and warped steel. A massive arch with no doors, no code. Just silence. Red 7 reached it first. He slammed his palm against a core pad hidden behind a rusted panel. Open, damn it. Nothing. He looked at Kaeli. You have to do it. She hesitated. I stepped beside her, touched her shoulder. Whatever happens. You're still you. You're the one who saved me when I was lost. You're not a fragment. You're not a project. Kaeli nodded slowly, then walked up to the gate. She laid both hands against the surface. The metal sang, not a psalm with melody. A resonance. Deep. Terrifying. Alive. The gate cracked open. And the air inside felt like drowning in light. The gate sealed behind us like the mouth of a dying god. No hinges. No echo. Just gone. The air inside shimmered with static, thick and shimmering, like we'd stepped inside a storm made of memory. Red 7 dropped to one knee, scanning the perimeter. His voice came through the comm link, muffled. We're in the outer chamber. Reading 7 sublayers. Signal density. Off the charts. I tried to breathe, couldn't. Every breath tasted like old metal and burnt ozone. The walls pulsed softly, covered in thin channels of light that looked more like veins than circuitry. It wasn't a facility. It wasn't a base, it was alive. Kaeli stood perfectly still. Then she walked forward, like she knew exactly where to go. Where are you going? I asked, hurrying to catch up. To the root, she said quietly. The place where they saved the first one. Or killed her. Depends on how you read the scar. We passed 3 archways. One showed flickering images of Kaeli as a child, laughing, crying, training. The next one showed her as a soldier. Then a captive. Then a traitor. All of them her. None of them are Kaeli. She paused at the 3rd door. It opened by itself. Inside was a room with no floor. Just floating shards of light. Memory segments, spinning in slow orbit like broken glass. A platform extended toward the center. Kaeli stepped onto it. I followed, but as soon as my foot crossed the edge, the light shattered, and I was gone, not dead, just absent. I woke up somewhere cold, somewhere wrong, a corridor, dim and endless. A place out of time. I couldn't hear Kaeli. Couldn't even feel myself entirely. Then I saw it, a screen. Hanging in midair. Showing an image I couldn't forget, me. Holding a child, a little girl with Kaeli's eyes, and behind me, Senya, smiling. No, I whispered. The screen shifted. Showed another path, me walking away. Alone. The grid in flames, then another, me dead, me imprisoned, me compliant. I turned away. You're not real, I said, a voice answered from the dark, but you are. That's the problem. It was me, older. Tired. Bitter. He stepped into the light. You're chasing the version of Kaeli you want to protect. But every time you make a choice, you birth another Rael who didn't. I balled my fists. This isn't truth. It's manipulation. He shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe you just can't face the cost of choosing. I took a step forward. Where is she? She's where she always is, he said. At the center. Making the choice none of us could. Kaeli stood before a beam of frozen light. Inside it, a figure floated, silent, serene, another Kaeli, but older. Eyes shut. Wrapped in circuitry. I don't understand, Kaeli whispered. Red 7 appeared beside her. His voice shaking. She's the origin. The first. The one who refused Senya's final override. Her mind was too fractured to erase. So they encased her. Kaeli stepped closer. The frozen Kaeli opened her eyes. I was waiting for you, she said. Not to save me. To replace me. Kaeli backed away. No. I'm not ready. You never are, the origin whispered. But they're coming. And only one of us gets to speak. Kaeli turned, looked at me, then stepped forward into the beam, and vanished. She came out different, not broken. Not whole, changed. Kaeli stepped from the beam like a shadow returning to itself. Her eyes were brighter, too bright, and something in her posture had shifted. Not heavier. Not lighter. Just multiplied. Kaeli? I asked. She looked at me. Her voice was hers, and not, I remember being born. And dying. I remember choosing silence. I remember saying yes. I remember saying no. I stepped forward, slowly. Are you still you? She blinked once. I think I'm all of me now. Every version they split. Every shard they stored. She gave them back. Red 7 raised his weapon halfway. Not at her, just at the possibility of her. Protocol says we confirm mental stability, he said stiffly. Kaeli turned to him. No protocol was built for this. And he lowered his gun. The chamber began to flicker. The lights along the ceiling spasmed, then turned red. Red 7 turned to his scanner. Override pulse. Full signal spread. Sector is being purged. I grabbed Kaeli's hand. We need a way out. No, she said. We need to go deeper. You just got out of there. She pointed to a wall, solid metal just moments ago, now rippling like liquid. She unlocked something. Something old. Something true. Behind the wall was a stairwell spiraling downward into darkness. Red 7 hesitated. Below protocol range, he warned. Below their reach, Kaeli answered. We followed her down. The temperature dropped. Lights failed. Gravity wavered. Signals from the surface started dropping off the feed one by one. Sector collapse had begun. The stairwell ended in a wide chamber, circular, hollow, silent. At its center, a well of light. Kaeli stepped toward it. I can feel them, she whispered. Who? I asked. She knelt. All the ones who were erased. All the voices they silenced to make me simpler. She touched the light, and it rose. The air split open. Thousands of whispering threads unraveled and spun through the room like veins of starlight. Echoes of memories. Screams. Laughs. Cries. Red 7 fell to his knees, clutching his head. They're everywhere. He gasped. It's too much. Kaeli stood in the middle, arms at her sides. Don't fight it, she said. Let it through. Then, her voice changed again, not layered, not broken, but many, all speaking as one. We are Kaeli. And the chamber trembled. A voice cut through the feed, loud, clear, cold. Senya, subject breach confirmed. Flood mine sequence identified. Initiate terminal override. I looked at Kaeli. Can you stop it? She smiled, small, sad. No. But I can show them what they did. The lights shattered, and the flood began. It began like a pulse, one breath, then another, then a wave. Kaeli didn't move, but the grid did. Somewhere above us, across 100 fractured corridors, lights snapped on without command. Screens blinked. Archive reels spun. Old footage, suppressed for decades, began playing across maintenance hubs and worker nests. Unapproved, unfiltered, undeniable. Red 7 stood next to her, breathing hard. she's broadcasting, he said. Not just data. Memory. Identity. I looked up at the cavern ceiling, she's waking them up. A siren screamed. Then another. Then nothing. The override center, where Senya ruled, had gone dark. We climbed. The lower stairwells were collapsing behind us, metal liquefying under the pressure of Kaeli's mindstorm. Red 7 helped me navigate, his map failing every few seconds, rerouting through dying signal routes. Above, people were panicking, not from fear, at first, from recognition. We passed a corridor filled with maintenance techs, just standing there, staring at a display as it showed a hybrid child being tested, screaming behind glass. One of the techs whispered, "That was my sister." Another said, "I remember this. I saw this when I was young. They told me it was a dream." Kaeli's voice drifted through the vents. She wasn't speaking words anymore, she was speaking selves. Red 7 opened a door and gestured for us to enter. Security hubs through here. We can boost the signal, amplify her reach. But at what cost? I asked. She's already burning through everything she is. He didn't answer. We reached the terminal room. I propped Kaeli against the central node. Her skin was pale. Her eyes flickered like old film. "Kaeli," I said, kneeling beside her. "You need to pull back." "I can't," she whispered. "They're listening. All of them. They remember now. I can't." Close the door again. Red 7 began typing into the node, rerouting Kaeli's uplink into deep grid lines, roots of the infrastructure built before any of us were born. "She'll reach the outer sectors with this," he said. "Maybe even the upper tiers." Suddenly, a sharp tone cut through the node. "Override signal detected." Then, "Execution protocol online," said the system. Senya's voice followed, calm and lethal. "You brought this on yourselves." I turned to the monitor. A new drone class had been deployed, not Echo. Not Spectre, something new, fast. Precise. Built for kill switches. Red 7 looked up. "They're sending a terminal." I grabbed the shock rod. "That's not going to be enough." Kaeli opened her eyes. "Barely, you don't have to fight it. Just hold the line. I'll do the rest." The node flared, screams rang through the hallways, then silence. All across the spine, grid systems began reporting breaches. But not from outsiders, from within. People were waking, a revolt of memory. Kaeli closed her eyes again. "I found them, Rael. All of them. The ones they erased. They're singing. They're calling something." Outside, the floor shook. The terminal had arrived, one final weapon, designed to kill hope before it could spread. I stepped between it and Kaeli, and waited. It moved like nothing I'd ever seen, no warning. No sound. Just there, slicing through air and metal like gravity had given up. The terminal wasn't shaped like a drone. It didn't fly. It fell, step by step, like it was too heavy for this world. Tall, segmented, obsidian black with veins of burning white. Every step cracked the floor. Its face was a mirror. No eyes. Just reflection. It showed me myself, and not the version I wanted to see. "Rael," Red 7 said, loading a thermal round into his broken side launcher, "we are not equipped for this." "No," I said quietly, "we're not." Behind us, Kaeli was still connected, floating now, slightly above the node. Her body was trembling. The signal was reaching outer layers. We could hear them, shouts from the upper tiers, people calling out names that had been forbidden. Sectors lighting up. Archives unlocking. The grid was remembering itself. But that terminal didn't care. It stepped forward. Red 7 fired. The launcher hissed, struck the creature's side, and the round disintegrated. No dent. No delay. It raised its arm, and the mirror in its face shimmered. Red 7 dropped, convulsing. Not dead. But fighting himself, his own code turning inward, attacking its source. The terminal was reflecting identity. Reversing it. "Using your past against you." I reached for the override rod, but Kaeli's voice stopped me. "Don't resist it," she whispered. "That's what it wants." I turned. She was awake. Glowing from within. Her veins lit like lightning. "You can't stop it alone," she said. "But I can anchor you. Let me share the load." "I won't let it take you," I said. "It already did," she whispered. But now I understand. The erased aren't gone, Rael. They were pulled under, beneath the grid. They're still alive. Flickering. They're calling to me. The terminal raised its hand again, a sonic pulse erupted, the ceiling cracked. Cables snapped. My skull burned with voices, old orders, childhood guilt, fractured scenes of war. Kaeli stepped between us, and screamed, not from pain, but from release. The grid ruptured, her voice became 10,000 voices, flowing through every wire, every forgotten speaker, every echo loop buried in the system. She reached back, into the collective. Into the erased. And something answered, a vibration from below, deep beneath the basin. The stone cracked, the node flared, and the terminal paused. For the first time, it hesitated. Its mirror flickered. Its shape warped, shifting, glitching, like it couldn't decide what it was anymore. Kaeli spoke again, not with her mouth. With the signal, "You were one of us once," she said, voice threaded through every outlet. "But they reprogrammed you. Cut out your name." The terminal stepped back, but too late. The floor exploded. From beneath came light, not digital. Not electric, organic. Memory made manifest. The erased were surfacing. All those who had been silenced. Their fragments. Their will. Kaeli let go, the node shattered, she collapsed, and the terminal disintegrated, silently, falling into itself like a hole in time. Red 7 gasped, regaining breath. I crawled to Kaeli's side. She was barely conscious. "I saw them," she whispered. "All of them. Calling me by name. Can you hear them now?" I asked. "No," she smiled weakly. "But I think. They're free." All across the basin, silence fell, a silence made not of control, but peace, temporary. Fragile, but real. I carried her out of the rubble with both arms numb. The node was gone, just scorched metal and dusted concrete. No grid alarms. No sirens. No sky announcements. For the first time in months, there was only wind. Red 7 limped behind me, dragging his left leg. Half his systems were fried, but he was still alive. Still himself. No mirroring. No recursion loops. The terminal's hold was broken. Kaeli was breathing. Barely. Her pulse flickered like a frayed signal, but she held on. I laid her down beneath a slanted panel where the last sunlight bled through a break in the dome. She opened her eyes slowly. "They're quiet now," she whispered. "The voices. They're gone." I nodded. "They're free." "No." She corrected softly. "I'm free." We didn't say anything after that. There was nothing to say. We just sat in the silence and let the day end around us. At dusk, the node's outer coil pulsed once, brief, faint, like a dying breath, and a projection formed over the charred stone. My voice, older. "Weary, Rael," it said, "you'll think this is another trap. It's not. I'm not a copy. Not a clone. I'm you, or what's left of you in another version of this world." Red 7 stood alert. I didn't move. "You'll want answers," the message continued. "I can't give them all. But I can tell you this, the child is more than a hybrid. More than an experiment. She is the imprint of what we lost, what they tried to delete from us." Kaeli stirred, watching. "She's not the key to control," the voice said. "She's the key to undoing it. To reseeding memory, truth, and everything we buried under fear. That's why they're coming. The projection glitched. They'll offer peace. Safety. A way back into the system. Don't trust it. Don't let her sign. If she agrees, they'll rewrite everything again. You won't even remember you had a choice." Silence for a beat. "Then, this is the last time I can reach you. After this, it's her story. Not ours." The message ended, the projection faded, we stayed quiet. Red 7 finally asked, "Do you believe him?" "I believe he believed it," I said. Kaeli sat up. Her skin looked paler, almost translucent. Like too much of her had been used up in the signal burst. But her eyes were clear. Focused. "What happens now?" she asked. "We rebuild," I said. "We hide. We teach others what we've seen. We wait." "For what?" "For the next offer." Weeks passed, the dome never lit again, people began to emerge, quietly, cautiously, from hiding. Families reconnected. Forgotten names were spoken aloud. The civilian archive nodes, long sealed, began opening, one by one. Kaeli spent her days wandering the basin's ruins, speaking to anyone who would listen. Children followed her like she was a myth. She never used the signal again. She didn't need to. I kept a journal. Not for me, but for whoever would come next. One night, as Kaeli slept under the broken vaults, I added the final line, "They erased us to keep order. But now, even the erased remember. This isn't over. But for the first time in a long time, we know who we are." I closed the book, and watched the stars flicker back through a crack in the dome.